New York and on the new Hot 97 app. Ebro in the morning on Hot 97.
Ebro in the morning, the beautiful Laura Styles, wrestling blinged out. What is this jacket?
It really shows me how bad a friend you are that you haven't seen this jacket, because it's been a statement on my IG page for months.
What is this?
It's my Bobby the Brain Heenan homage jacket.
Oh, the one. People got mad about that jacket.
Yes, they did. But it's not about that.
We'll talk about
Nipsey
you later.
Hussle's here.
His shine is better. Nipsey Hussle, give it up for him. His shine is much better.
What's up, y'all?
Braids fresh, jewelry fresh, kicks fresh. I mean, fresh.
Thank you, sir.
Taking
Thank
his
you,
victory
sir.
lap.
Thank you, sir.
You're
not too shabby yourself, bro. You know
Thanks,
what I'm
brother.
saying?
Thanks,
Yes,
brother.
sir.
Thanks,
Yes, sir.
Listen, I want to get right to it. First of all, this is the first album of yours that I've lived with.
Right.
Being 100% honest. I've obviously heard your stuff before.
Yeah.
But I can hear your music maturation on this album. Not just your words.
Right, the actual music behind
The
it.
music behind it.
Right.
Real quick before we get into some other deep things that I want to unpack with you, talk about that process for yourself with the music.
I was really intentional with the production on this one. Like we built a studio with the producers that gave me my best records off for my last couple mixtapes, which was 1500 and a group by the name of Mike and Keys. And we was just real intentional of what we wanted it to sound like. We built a studio from scratch. We was like, I think Death Row, Bad Boy, they benefited from being in the same building. They created a synergy of having Daz in one room, Dre in the other room, Superfly in the other room, and by making music under the same roof, even Motown, by having the songwriters in this room, creating Hitsville, it created the opportunity for a sound because everybody was individuals, but they creative contributions bled into the other rooms.
Camaraderie.
Yeah, and competitive, friendly competitive sessions where you hear what the other producer doing. Even watching like Fade to Black, you see they had Just Blaze in this room. They had Pharrell. They had everybody, and it was kind of a competitive thing. So we wanted to, create in the vein of that, and then also I wanted it to feel like when you go get your new car, when you come from hustling or grinding or just being in a process and you go get your penthouse or you go get your new car, whatever your goal is, your material goal, you want to have a soundtrack that sound like the progress.
Wait, you sure you're not related to Snoop? We going with
He asked me this off camera. This is the second time he asked me this.
Yo, it's so funny. He said it. He said earlier today before you got here. Yeah. He went, "Yo, we sure Nipsey's not related to Snoop." I went,
so this the third time.
That's third time. I answered. I went, "I'm 100% sure."
Right, nah, that's my
I know
homeboy.
you're not.
That's
I know you're not. But everybody obviously.
Yeah. Nah, that's my folks, man. I'm a skinny motherfucker that say cuz a lot, but nah, that's my people. And I was obviously influenced by Snoop. I grew up, you didn't have to buy Snoop albums in LA. You go outside and hear every song. You ain't had to buy. No, even though we did, it was ubiquitous. That shit was everywhere. So the videos, we always influenced by him, you know what I'm saying? But nah, no relation.
So I'm sorry, bro. I said to Nips, I was saying that to me, one of the things I love, when you take a trip to LA, you always hear Nipsey on the radio, right? Always. You hear Problem a lot. Like, there are these artists, Nipsey being the king of it, who you always hear in LA.
That's right.
And who people know in New York, but we haven't heard enough of in New York. And I feel that this album is really that body of work to hang your hat on and be like, this is who Nipsey Hussle is. You may have heard his voice here, you've seen him here, but wouldn't you agree this body of work is that complete piece? Like, did you know that by putting all these pieces together, getting the features that you did, the way the whole album set up, was it meant to be that sort of entree?
That was the goal. I took a while also. I've been in the game for a while on the mixtape circuit, so I took a while delivering my debut album because I felt just like what you said. I wanted to make it a music moment. I've had, we talked about the $100 album. We talked about when I first came in the game, just getting an introduction and my name being known.
That $100 album was arrogant. At the time, I was like, really? This dude?
And by the way, how did it? Obviously, from a marketing standpoint, it worked out.
This guy right here is like,
But how did it work out?
What y'all think.
How did it work out financially, though?
It was one of my best moves, truthfully, financially, because even outside of the LA, what it was the day before Crenshaw dropped digitally and on iTunes and on the mixtape sites, we did a pop-up shop in LA, and we, like 12 o'clock, midnight, we delivered the hard copies for $100. So if you was really a fan and you couldn't wait till 8 a.m. when it came out, you came to the pop-up shop and bought it for $100. So we sold 1,000 units that night. But then when I went on tour, we did pop-up shops at Vinny Styles in Brooklyn. We did it in Chicago. We did every tour stop, we did a pop-up shop. And it was like hustlers coming in, pulling out 10,000, like, give me 5 of them, Nip. I salute the move. And, you know, every city we went to, we sold multiple $100 units. So,
how did you know that it would be, there had to be something in you that was like, nah, this is what I'm gonna do?
Well, it was a few things. I mean, it's a crazy way to connect it, but you know, I saw video games, right? And you know how like Halo would come out or something, and it'll have 3 packages. It'll be the one for $59.99, it'll be the one for $99.99 that come with the poster and the seat, and then this one for like $149 that got the whole gun and all of the extra stuff. Their main product is the regular one, $59.99 or whatever that regular price is. But then you got a part of their base that they so engaged with that brand that they want to just support at the highest level. So I figure, like, as musicians, we got parts of our fan base that's that engaged that they want to be proud to pay, which was the term I gave it, but they want to fully support. So it's just on us to define how you do that. We ain't set the business model. Steve Jobs and Apple said 99 cents a song, and we follow suit. And then Best Buy said $12.99 or $15. We ain't set the business model ever. So we're not gonna take our products outside of those spaces because that's where all the people are trying to shop. But if we say, for the fans that's gonna take the directive from me, and you really want to support, here's where you do it at, and it's the price point. And it was really an experiment. I didn't know for sure if it was gonna work, but
of course, I
knew that I'll do my normal numbers on iTunes that I always do on, you know, the traditional outlet. So it'll just help. And at worst, I'll get a little backlash, and at best, I'll make a lot more money.
No, but you got yeah, I remember.
100, right?
He bought like 2 or 3, right?
Well, there was $100, so he bought 100 of them. He sent 10,000.
Oh wow! I thought I read 2 or 3 copies.
No, he bought 100 of them. Yeah.
He went in.
Yeah. So once people got wind of that, I think, you know, Hove is so influential that people start zooming into the campaign and being less critical of it. You know what I mean?
Do you have any? I can tell, for as cool a dude as you are, you're a rap nerd. You know this game
for sure
really well.
For sure.
And you're aware of perception. Do you get that fear when you put out mixtapes and you, like I said, every record's on Mix Show in LA and people know you in LA? Do you start to get, before you drop this album, are you like, man, I don't want to become a dude who everyone knows and sees around,
right,
but doesn't have enough? You want to make that classic material. Did you start feeling like any of that pressure?
Well, just being honest, I was always, you know, doing it at a handicap. I never said that publicly because I didn't want to feel like I was making no excuses. But I've always known that if I get a moment to really be creative and sit in the studio and, you know, create with the resources, with real producers, with, you know, like I bought a whole studio to do this album. I never mixed none of my music. And I ain't saying this to diminish my last releases. I'm just speaking to the point of being concerned with, you know, reaching a plateau in the mixtape space or reaching a ceiling. You know, I knew that if I was able to go and record on the most high quality vocal chain and get the most high quality production and be able to really stop tending to my other businesses for survival and knowing that I gotta create, you know, means to not have to rely on no deal. I was independent the whole time, and so I had to have other hustles that I did also. If I could just situate those to where they'd be on autopilot, I could really focus on music and really flex and show what I could do musically. Because I feel like as an artist, I ain't really displayed my talents yet. What my potential is as an artist, you know, which is a little bit in the direction of what you said. Like, people know the name Nipsey, and they know like he from LA. You know, he has respect in his city. You know, he's made a couple moves, but as far as musically, I haven't really been able to flex like that. So this album was an example of me going in that direction, and I still got a lot of space to grow and space to really just demonstrate what I'm capable of. You know, it's been little flashes. I've shown up on verses and on features, but to be able to make a concentrated music moment, that's what I'm focused on right now.
I want to go farther into the community and how you represent your city and other things that you worked on and what you represent. I saw something that you had put up or were talking about. I think it was on Big Boy's show in LA about a program that you're starting.
Right.
And
Vector 90.
Well, say it again.
It's called Vector 90.
Vector 90.
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
and I reposted the video.
I seen that.
It was about something with technology and business in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
And that'll hopefully open up a dialogue that I want to have with you just about who you are as a person that maybe people don't know. But what is this?
So Vector 90, it opened up the day before my album release.
Okay.
So it's a 5,000 square foot. It's 2 levels. The top level is called Vector 90. The bottom level is called Too Big to Fail. And the top level is a co-work space for any inner city entrepreneurs. So kind of like WeWorks, where you can go rent an office space. It's a shared space.
You have a desk, you got phone.
Yeah, you know, and it's also a synergy of creators because while you at the coffee table, you might run into somebody that does something that you don't do, build relationships. So we kind of drew from that model, but we based it in my neighborhood, you know what I mean, which is like South Central LA, the Crenshaw district. And one of the requirements is that you come from this part of the LA in order to actually rent the space. We're not discriminating against other people in other places, from other places, but you're gonna have priority if you come from the area. And so to start, there's 8 entrepreneurs that rented out the space, and each office is, you know, they home base for their business. So it's basically a inner city co-work space. And in the bottom half is a science, technology, engineering, and math center, which is basically the skill set you need to go into Silicon Valley. And it was an
Jobs of tomorrow talk.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah, for
that's
sure.
that's your favorite subject. That's amazing.
Nah, you know, so
Getting the babies ready next 10 years.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and just even when we did the grand opening, all the artwork on the walls were facts about technology and about these companies and how the demographics are in Facebook and Google and Twitter. And it's like the highest one has 8% African American people. You know, and that's, I think, Facebook. Every other company
1-2%.
Yes, you know what I'm saying? And this is majority of, like you said, the jobs are gonna, in the future, even right now, the
It's happening
opportunity,
right
but
now, yeah.
it's gonna get more and more intense. So, you know, the goal is to create a bridge between the inner cities and Silicon Valley. And especially, it's important in LA because that's an hour away. You know, that's an hour flight, Silicon Valley from Los Angeles, and there's minimal representation. You know,
especially when you see the lack of support in the local like public school systems in those particular neighborhoods. So you're giving these kids opportunity that they probably wouldn't able to get anywhere else.
100%.
And I also saw, because listen, I saw that you jumped on super early with the whole cryptocurrency wave, because I know like recently, I know you downloaded the whole Bitcoin app and everybody, but
You ain't made no money, right?
At least I'm above zero.
okay,
above zero.
okay.
I'm not losing anymore.
You ain't losing
But
nothing.
I
I
just
put
want
in my
you to,
big 1,500. You know what I'm saying? I'm up to like 1,580.
I just want you to talk about that, how you were up on it super early before everybody else.
You know what's crazy? Complex wrote an article about me in like 2013 and called me one of the top 10 underachieving rappers. And I was so offended by that I spoke out and I said something. And Karen Civil had a good relationship with Mark Echo. And that's, you know, my business partner and my homegirl. She like, Nip, you can't just bash the whole company. You know, it's other people. I was just one editor. But I was just offended because, you know, I ain't consider myself an underachieving rapper. I consider myself an overachieving, you know, street nigga, to be just completely honest. You know, my group of individuals, you know, I was the most successful out of everybody. You know what I mean? So I was just offended by that, for real. But we had a talk with Mark Echo, and Mark Echo, you know, it was like, bro, the magazine has its own opinion. I give the magazine its autonomy. I don't get in between that. But we just had a real convo, and halfway through the convo, he was like, I started talking about my idea for my marathon stores. And I was like, I want to create a retail network. I want to have 10 stores in America. I want to be able to drop my albums to my own stores, charge whatever I want. You know, like Apple. Apple got 100% vertical integration. They control the aesthetic of the store, the operating system, the product, the whole shit. So he was like, he kind of shitted on my idea, like fuck brick and mortar. Think about e-commerce. And by the way, check out Bitcoin. And I was like, 13. So from then,
13.
I didn't invest back then. I just started doing my research. I was a little late to invest also, but I was aware of it, and I just was watching it and did my my due diligence based on what he told me in like 2013. Yeah.
It's interesting to hear you talk too because you know, I was telling them that, obviously Kendrick, Black Panther movie soundtrack and other Kendrick work. If you listen to Victory Lap from Nipsey Hussle, you'll hear him talk about Africa, being an African king. You talk about slave ships. Obviously you have your affiliations from your neighborhood and the way you were raised, right? But I find it very interesting that there are certain street dudes in hip hop that want to talk about culture and the importance of family. Mm-hmm. Where does that come from for you?
Well, we talked about it off camera. My dad was born in Africa, in a country called Eritrea, and he spent the first 20 years of his life over there. You know what I mean? So I was born and raised in LA. I wasn't able to go back and really understand that side of my culture until I was 18 myself. But a lot of who I am, I understood more once I went over there. And just who I thought I was naturally and parts of my personality and what I was just interested in, is connected to my dad's side, and so I got to meet my grandmother, I got to meet my cousins and everything. And
Eritrea. And for the audience, I know because Laura, I think it was you asked the other day, where's Eritrea?
Right.
Eritrea is in Ethiopia. It was a small territory. There was a civil war, and now it's its own separate country. And we could talk about that's a whole other
that's a long,
political
100%.
conversation. But
yeah.
Eritreans, Ethiopians,
pretty much the same. It's like
same zone.
Yeah,
same.
It's like New York. You got all the boroughs. Everybody a New Yorker. It's different nuances,
tribes.
You know what I'm saying? But pretty much you're a New Yorker. You know what I mean? So in that part, it's East Africa. It's called the Horn of Africa. Ethiopia, Eritrea. The political divide is not doesn't trickle down to the people. Everybody still feel like they want people, and they everybody has pride in they country because it was a war fought.
And also, if you want to do research on Ethiopia, it's one of the only African countries to never be conconquered by white people.
Wasn't colonized ever. Yeah,
wasn't colonized.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So still to this day. So that's a whole other combo.
That's the only part of Africa that wasn't. And so that's like you was talking about. It's just a pride to be from that part of Africa. There's a big pride, and even Jamaicans and Rastafarians, if that's the way you say it, Rastafari, they identify with the culture of Ethiopia and Eritrea, just based on the fact that it was never colonized. But that's a whole nother convo that they got experts that we gotta be real careful about because they'll check us on our facts. But one thing that I noticed when I went over there that's really different than our culture here in America is, and it doesn't sound too deep, but it really is, was how everything is based around food, right? So imagine every day from 12 noon to 3 p.m., the whole city shut down and everybody go home and eat. So like we at work right now, we'll stop we doing at noon and you'll go home to your kids and your wife. You'll go home to your husband and your kids. You'll go home to your wife and your kids, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whatever, if we ain't married. And we'll eat with our family. The schools are let out at 12 o'clock to 3 p.m. every day. Only thing open in the city from that time is restaurants. And it took me a while to understand why that was important. I'm just thinking, okay, this is the custom and how I go, but I realized during that time, you talk to your family every day. How's your day going? Oh, it's cool. I got into it at school, or everything going good, but you check in every day with your family.
And it's kind of like a midday reset.
You know what I mean? And you sit around the table and eat. And I realized we don't do that. We don't eat it as a family that much. Holidays we do out here, but I realized, damn, that's where the bond takes place, over the food, breaking bread with your family. And even outside of that, just being in a place where these customs have been going on for thousands of years. Us as black people in America, this is new. Even other races in America, it's only been, 400, 500 years? How long America's been established?
Yeah, about that.
This is a relatively new culture we all are participating in. And to know that the customs of the land that you in are thousands and thousands of years old does something also. You kind of feel like there's been a trial and error, so whatever ended up sticking around, this must be some value to this. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
It's interesting too to hear you talk about that. Obviously, with the movie being out, were you surprised, as having that connection to Africa, how much you saw the passion behind the movie Black Panther, or was that something you expected?
I didn't know what to expect. I just knew that this was a unique moment you know, in Hollywood and film and art, so I just went to go watch it. I didn't really watch the previews. I'm not really up on the Black Panther story like that as far as the Marvel side. And I was like, you know, I was blown away for real when I watched it. And I said this yesterday, you know, the most powerful line in the movie is when Michael B. Jordan chose not to be saved. And he's like, man, what, so you could lock me up? He like, just bury me in the ocean. You know what I mean? With my ancestors, because they knew that death is better than bondage. That was heavy to me. You know what I mean?
It really did hit you. That part, I was like, whoa,
that was powerful, you know? So, and just the whole idea, so many layers to that movie. It reminded me, and not in aesthetic at all, but just in dynamic, it reminded me of Get Out. Where you could watch it on the surface and just see what's going on the surface, but it's a lot of it's layers to that movie, bro. Even Michael B. Jordan character, like.
Did you see yourself?
What? Of course I did.
Because that's you. I mean,
man, listen, that's why
you.
That's why it affected me like that, because I'm like, damn, you know, whoever wrote this, and obviously we know who wrote it, but I'm like, this dude, man, you know, he spoke to some real shit, because my dad is from Africa. But I was raised in South Central LA. And, you know, I was turned cold. To be honest, I adapted to the culture. Naturally, that's not who I am, naturally. The culture of gangbanging in LA. None of us grow up as kids, we come from nurturing. But there's a lack of that and a coldness you get from going outside and having to survive. You get in survival mode. So when I seen the character, I don't know, I forgot his name, Michael B. Jordan character though.
Killmonger.
Eric Killmonger.
Yeah. And then I seen the story when they start getting into what happened and why he turned like that. And even his lines and how passionate he was about. I remember there was a line saying like, he's like, yeah, I know the game of my oppressors, or something he said. I'm hip to the oppressor's game. And then the other dude was like, nah, man, you took it and you using it against your own people, using the same game that they used on you against your own people. That's so real. And, you know what I'm saying?
That's what gangbanging is.
That's what gangbanging is. And I had a convo. It's crazy. I was sitting next to Michael Eric Dyson on the airplane, on a random on the way to New York. Just this time, and Van.
Well, there goes any sleep. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry, Michael. I'm just kidding. Keep going.
He was cool. I was the one talking. I was trying to get some lingo up out of him.
Yeah.
But
he's got some knowledge.
Nah, for sure. And so I was just telling him, and I'm gonna be honest and speak blunt. I'm like, you know what, man? As a gangbanger, right? When you go on a mission, you might, when you looking for your so-called enemy, you driving through a different hood down the street. You know, it's an invisible line. You cross this street, now you in another hood. And you hunting. And when you looking, you gonna pass up the dude that's dressed square, right? You gonna pass up a dude from a different race. When you see somebody that's dressed like you dress and got the walk like you got and got the body language like you gonna say, there you go, get him. And that's deep.
Whew.
You know what I'm saying? When you really unpack that.
That's crazy.
You know what I'm saying? You looking for yourself just on the other side of town. And you going to hop out and attack him and try to down him in a real way. And being caught up in gangbanging culture, you don't think that deep. You just think of, these niggas came through and shot the hood up. We about to go back through there and return the favor. But as you really mature, as I matured and you know, became exposed to other opportunities and embraced them, had to be honest with myself. I start being honest and thinking about it like, damn, you know, just the selection process, the way that you select who your target is going to be, that's something to think about.
How much did being able to go back to Africa and connect with something that is, I'm sure, mind-blowing beyond who you are today, meeting your grandparents and seeing other individuals, that how much did that help you get that awakening?
It was profound going over there. It made a huge impact. I was different. It's me before I went and it's me after I came back. And I came back, I was 19 when I came back, so I was still knee deep in what was going on in LA when I came back. But I had a different, you know, you got those two voices. This one became a lot louder because I couldn't fake like I wasn't exposed to the way things could be. You know what I'm saying? And you know, I think it led to me making decisions that brought me into music and brought me into being, you know, whatever the word is. I don't want to say positive. That's not the most,
Aware.
more aware. You know what I'm saying? And more conscious of my decisions and the impact of my decisions. And also that I couldn't just embrace the narrative of, this how this shit go and this what it is. That wasn't a reality to me no more. Go ahead.
So, sorry, Nips. In keeping with that, something Ebro brings up a lot is that the origins of LA gangs, there is more of a connection to Black Panthers 100%. And to other things that are positive.
100. Crip stood for community reprogression and progress.
So with that being said, you in the space that you're in right now, is there any level of you that aspires to be part of turning gang culture back to something related to that?
If you listen to the record on my album with Kendrick, if you listen to Dedication, he said, I'm at the premiere politicking with Nip, Top, and Snoop. Damn. Pac watching how far we came from Dedication. He talking about a convo me, Snoop, Top Dog, and him had at the Tupac premiere in L.A. And I won't go into full detail about that because that was for all four of us to talk about if we do. But that was one of the subjects was, Top of Blood, he from Bonnie Hunters, he from the Nickerson Garden Projects. Snoop from Long Beach, he from Rolling 20 Crip. Kendrick from Compton, he grew up in the Paru neighborhood. I'm from the Rolling 60s. So Top and Snoop, in their era, the politics was so intense that no matter how powerful they were, it was things that was just taboo.
Above their pay grade.
Yeah, you couldn't really get into them type of things. But then now me and Kendrick, we from a different era. And so the convo was like, me and Kendrick was just listening at first. But then it was like, is it time right now to address that? Is because it's a different era for sure. You know what I'm saying? We saw what happened with Death Row. We saw what happened when gangbanging spills into music, and when street politics make their way into power positions, you get the perfect storm for destruction. So our generation, you see me and YG how we politic. You know what I mean? You see how all of us represent our tribes, but we can coexist in the music space. And if that could happen in music,
well, and I think the one piece of it, even if we use the African parallel, becomes a conversation around redirected energy and resources, right? Because all of these conflicts, even going back to the Black P. Stones and the Crips, and Black Panthers and Black nationalism became a resource conversation around Black men not being able to get jobs. So then when you have people who can't provide for their families and are frustrated, emotional, broken, and then you give a certain group some guns and you give another group something that they can sell and get some money, all you got to do is watch them go at each other because they're going to kill their neighbors. And we all know that most of the violence that happens in anywhere, it happens with your neighbor. Right? Whether that's white on white crime, black on black crime, it happens with the person next door to you because there's a certain comfort. You see yourself in them. Y'all live on the same block. So when you mad at yourself and you mad at your existence, you're equally mad at the person who's, it's like being in a bad relationship.
Yeah.
Right.
Like who you lashing out on the most.
Your closest ones to you.
The closest ones to you.
Right.
Well, and to Nipsey's point earlier about when you're going to hunt for someone and you're literally looking for yourself.
On a subconscious level.
Yeah.
You don't think that's what you're looking for, but that's the metric to
But when
say,
you said you see a square, if you see someone who's a square, you instantly rule them
get
out.
a pass. Yeah, you ain't aiming at
How you think I survived? I was a square.
Right.
Nah, but and even something I want to bring up too to that point you made. It's anybody y'all heard of this dude named Maslow? He made a thing called the Pyramid of Human Needs, right? Mm-hmm. And so I've
seen that, but I didn't know who made it.
Okay, so at the base of human needs is our physiological needs: food, clothing, shelter. We don't want to be wet. We don't want to be hot. We don't want to be cold. That's at the base of
comfort.
Comfort. Just being able to be fed. The basic survival. And there's other needs that come above that. But if you can't address these, the basic,
everything's off.
All that other shit don't count. And it's come to resources. You know what I'm saying? It's where you get a different person once you get past this first level.
That's why that's the fundamental misunderstanding with people on the right who, when you're talking about Black Lives Matter, they want to talk about black on black crime instead.
Right.
That's the fundamental misunderstanding is they don't understand that those bottom needs aren't being met. Period. So everything's out the window.
100%. And you can't, it's a level of, you know, the way you perceive the world is limited based on the needs that you have being met. If your base needs being met, look at the trajectory of an artist and they narrative as they become more successful. They start addressing things different. You know what I mean? You start to see, it might have been the most hardcore artist at the beginning of the career, but as you address these needs, the message changed in a lot of cases, and that's just in the perspective of hip hop. You know what I mean? But I think that just to your point of gangbanging and the Black Panther connection, you know, a lack of resource, we in survival mode, and in survival mode, it's rather you than me, and it's not personal, and we all kind of understand that. That's why we don't. It's become, yeah, niggas die. That's how this shit go. Not because we like it or we embrace that, because we understand. I understand your point of view, bro. I get it. I know you're going through the same shit I'm going through. It ain't personal, but
And you gonna kill me if I don't get to you first.
yeah, and about some chili, you gonna go to any extent to feed them babies. I get it. As well as I am, homie, so may the best man win. And it's, you know, but that's a survival perspective. You know what I'm saying? So I just think it's interesting for understanding, you know, that we clear that you can't necessarily come to too many conclusions about a person's moral foundation because they in survival mode. You know what I mean?
So I don't want to get into, you know, because we're having such a great conversation. I don't want to get into naming names. But on that note, how do you feel when you see the recklessness around gang culture?
I mean, again, that's sensitive, right? That's touchy because I ain't a hater. And
That's right.
You know, I'm like, man, to each his own, right? But right is right, wrong is wrong. And I grew up like, even if you my best homie, we gonna ride together in public. But if I do some shit that's not right, when we get back to the hood, you gonna holler at me about that. Bro, don't get us in a wreck, homie. Don't do that. That's wrong. I'm with you. You my bro in public. We gonna thug it out. But when we get back to where we going, homie, don't do that. You know what I'm saying? You gonna get us hurt. That's not how we get down. So that's how I grew up. Nobody's bigger than the program. None of us. And so it's rules to everything. I think that it's a sincere way to do things, and then it's the other way. So I believe in something that's serious is gangbanging, where life and death is involved, where people got decades of death. Like bro, I can't count how many of my homeboys I buried and went to funerals. I ain't saying this on no badge of honor shit. I'm just saying that's how serious the thing has become, that we get so offended when people play with it. LA people, New York people, down south people, it ain't just region specific. It's just like, it's almost spitting on people's grave. You know what I'm saying? To play with that culture. So I understand gang culture is global now. I don't really agree with it. I'm like, man, be careful. Don't open that can of worms for real. But I understand that, you know, that's how things spread.
Do you think that people who have co-opted or adopted, however they were acclimated into this lifestyle, right? Because I feel personally that some people co-opt it because they think it looks cool.
I agree.
I feel like there are people who have just adopted it because they trying to get some honor and they willing to risk it all just to get a bag. I feel like there's certain young people out here getting extorted.
Facts.
And getting put in the blender. Mm-hmm. And then there's people obviously that, you know, go do time or, you know, grow up in a neighborhood and that's just what it is.
Right.
And they don't really have a choice other than to survive. You know, how do you feel? Do you feel like people are becoming more open to this conversation about how they've been taken advantage of as young people to be put down a path that might end in death because of a system that basically, the prison pipeline, you know, the buying and selling of illegal guns and drugs, you know, that's a part of our economy. Right? Like that is a part of the American economy, the black market of guns, drugs, the prison pipeline, the prison industry. And all of these kids is flagging on the gram and acting like it's cool. You're promoting something that is literally traded on Wall Street
Facts.
at the hands of death for black and brown kids?
So I got 3 answers to that, right?
Right.
So number one, the good part about gang culture, if you could even say that without being attacked, you know what I'm saying, is that in a genuine sense of it, when the people that got it honest and became a part of it honest, right? The world said we was wrong, but the set embraced you for who you was. You know what I mean? And that's the allure of gangbanging in the gang, is that you might have been broke, your mama might have been on drugs, you might have not had, you know, the material success, but the gang don't judge you on that. The gang judge you on your heart. You know what I'm saying? If you got heart, we gonna embrace you and we love you, and that's the only requirement. And so, a lot of young people, that's all they had to offer. You know what I mean? They didn't have none of the qualities that made the world value you. You know what I mean? But the gang was pure in the sense that we was strictly off the heart. That's it. And it's considered violence because we gonna make you fight to show your heart. But if you show your heart, we gonna embrace you, and you gonna rise in the hierarchy, and you gonna be somebody, for better or for worse. That's the allure to a young kid. On the flip side, to answer, I said I got 3 answers. The other one is like, my generation grew up when technology became ubiquitous. I was in LA before it was cameras all over the place. I was in LA before they had cell phones that connected to all the towers. You know what I mean? And then that thing started happening. But the culture we was taught the game by older dudes that they gang bang when it wasn't cameras everywhere and it wasn't no technology. So they gave us a message in a book of rules that they was able to live by, but they didn't have technology working against them. So they misled us unintentionally, because when we start doing with all the shit they did to become reputable gang members, you know, ain't no way you gonna get away with it, bro. Ain't no way. Your phone is connected to the tower, and your big homie couldn't tell you nothing about that because there wasn't no cell phones when they was out here going on missions. So when you didn't get caught with the gun and you made it back to the hood, but the police put up on you the next day and got your cell phone out your pocket, and you went to jail for life because that's the phone that was in the area of the murder when it took place. That's how you got caught. That's how you went down. And who's gonna give you that game? You had to learn from experience. So what happened was our generation started looking at the message we was getting like, wait a minute, bro. I know y'all intentions was good, but that shit don't work. The technology gonna whoop us. And that's what happened. We was victims of the whole, that shit ended street crime in LA, for real, and it's ending it. So I was one of the people, I told my homies, we gotta embrace technology in a different way, because they're using it against us. I seen that. I remember we was at the Arco gas station on Crenshaw and Slauson, and some shit happened. I had one of my homies from Bonnie Hunters was with me, and I was gonna pull into the gas station, and I seen about 35 of my homies out there, and I kept it pushing because I didn't want to disrespect the night by bringing the blood into the hood with all. Wasn't nothing gonna happen to him. I just ain't feel like that energy.
Tension.
I ain't even feel like, having to press no line or making my homies feel like I was disrespecting the hood, whatever. So I just kept it pushing, honked the horn, kept it pushing. A shooting took place that night. A big fight took place, and a week later, I remember my grandma telling me, was you at the gas station that night? No, I wasn't at the gas station. All right, I was at the block club. The police said they got everything on tape. Oh, yeah, damn. A week later, the whole hood got raided, and 15, 16 people ended up getting real time, 55 years with an L behind that shit. And that was my eye-opener. I'm like, they got it. It's over. They won. The technology ended this shit, because that was regular gangbanging. That would happen every night. Niggas to shoot out the gas station, out of it, not at it. Sometimes at it too, but every night. And I just said that to say, the second thing, we got trained from a generation that didn't have the same elements working against them. Even the laws was different. They got a thing called a gang enhancement. Meaning, let's say, Ebro, you a gang member. I don't gang bang. You and Rosenberg see me, bow. Y'all jump me. Regular gang shit. Y'all fight me. Y'all break my nose. All right, that's a fight. Now, the fight hold maybe 16 months to 3 years max, depending on y'all criminal history. But you got the hood tattooed on you. He don't. He gonna get his 3 years. You got Rolling 60s tattooed on your body.
I actually do. That's
Yeah, I
interesting you
know,
say
I
that.
heard. You know what I'm saying?
It's weird that you know that.
Nah, but now when you go to court, they gonna say, all right, you're giving you 3 years for the actual crime, but your gang enhancement holds 30. Because it was called what they call great bodily harm. Because now they saying you done this for the benefit of a hood that has a history of murder, killing, bank robbery. So you doing this to benefit this hood. So now your crime gonna get you 3. Your gang enhancement, just because your tattoo, gonna get you 30. He got 3 years, you got 33 years. That's how they start whooping people. It's called a gang enhancement. And it's unbelievable. A carjacking gets you life if you from a gang. The gang enhancement on carjacking is life. If you take somebody's car. And a lot of people fell victim to that in our generation. That was a new law. So that's the second part of the answer. And the third part, I kind of lost track of where we was going. But it was a long subject. I'll come back to it when I think about it. But, you know, it's tricky, but at the end of the day, this generation calls for a different protocol. You know what I'm saying? It's like...
Well, and also, too, I think you have, you know, there's generational things that we all adopt that are not good for our health, right? I talk a lot about it on the radio. Our eating habits as black and brown people. Oftentimes, Spanish people, they'll talk about, yo, but we have rice every night. It's killing you, bro. But grandma gonna make it every night. The rice, tell grandma the rice is different now.
Right now than it used to be.
It's different food.
Right.
Technology has changed, and unless we change the way we're eating and feeding our bodies, we're gonna die at a faster rate because we are in denial of the world around us that's taking advantage of our bodies. And until we stop being in denial about that, right, in one way, shape, or form, and change, then it's just going to continue to be a cycle of frustration and an emotional downturn for our families and our loved ones, because we're not able to climb out of these caskets and holes that have already been predetermined because somebody's going to make money on it. You know what I mean? And I think that's where I was trying to, you know, look, man, I know it's deep, it's generational, it's family, but the fact that you're able to have open dialogue like this and be as successful as you are independently, be an independent thinker, I think helps people looking at this maybe think about things differently. You know what I'm saying? And some people will be strong enough to be independent and be independent thinkers, and many others will not.
Right.
But I think if the dialogue is out there and hopefully this conversation goes far enough, you know, because it really, you know, as somebody that grew up in a neighborhood that had gangs that I was just never involved in because of who my dad was, and I didn't have to be a part of that world, and people kept me away from that and encouraged me to do other things. You know, I remember when I first showed up in New York and I was in Harlem and I saw Crip spray painted on the wall in Harlem.
Yeah.
That broke my heart. Like, I teared up.
Yeah.
Like, Harlem, that's like the home of black people.
100%.
That gangs went that far, right? And not because of the original intention of creating a community organization that band together to protect itself from the oppressor and police and being attacked, but what it became, because it became, like many things in America, based on capitalism, money, and exploitation. You know what I'm saying? And to see it go that far, it was traumatic for me. And then to see where it is now, you know, where it just seems without purpose and just flagrant. And oftentimes disrespectful, and not as organized as it was intended.
100%.
It feels like somebody needs to have a real talk about reeling stuff in.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Before we lose another generation.
I agree.
Which then we get into opioids, and a whole generation lost on lean and opioids and a whole other.
And by the way, that's in progress.
Yeah.
That's in motion. Just what you spoke on, just the opiate epidemic, but then again, we got hip hop.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say this, I ain't mean to cut you short.
Go.
I remember we all had baggy clothes on. And I remember having a tattoo on your face meant you was a level 4 prison resident. It was not, you couldn't walk around the street with no tattoo on your face. That was like, bro, what are you going crazy, homie? What changed that? The narrative in rap music. People start wearing their clothes a little slimmer. You know, it became, you know, fashionable in rap music. And we saw the whole culture shift. They're to question your sexuality. Nothing against homosexual people. That's not what I'm saying. We come from a hip hop culture where in the 90s, they would call you a certain thing if your clothes was tight. Right or wrong?
Yes. Absolutely.
Now, if you wear baggy clothes, you look nuts.
You look nuts, bro. It's what happened. The message in hip hop influenced the world.
Yep.
So this is the power of hip hop. You know, when hip hop say
And the intended power.
and the intended power,
The
right?
intended power.
When we say we done with the lean, we putting the cups down. I've been seeing that trend. I see the impact. You know what I mean?
It's slowing down.
I see the impact. I seen Mozzie dump his cup out. I
Yep.
seen Mustard
Yeah, I
dump
saw
his
that.
cup out.
Yeah.
I used to sip. I don't sip. I don't smoke weed no more. You feel me? I ain't on a anti-weed campaign. I'm just saying my personal preference, I want to be sober. You know what I mean? I've been high. You know, I don't like being drunk. I'd rather be sober and focused, right? So when the message go into the music and the people that's so-called cool or influential say we ain't insecure and saying we ain't drinking no lean. We ain't fucking with them pharmaceuticals because we, number one, it's going to kill us. Number two, it's actually somebody's agenda. It'll impact the world the same way when the fashion changed. If we say we ain't set tripping, you know, everybody bang their tribes, but we not set tripping. I believe it'll impact, you know what I mean? The globe, the way when people start wearing their clothes to fit and when people start putting their record labels on their face or whatever they put, you know, they tattoos. It became, man, it's 15-year-old kids in my neighborhood with they face tattoo and their mama has no problem with it. That's new. That ain't regular.
Yeah, we've been talking about that. That change was.
You know, it is what
And look,
it is.
and you know, and at 42, when I'm 60, there will be somebody working on Wall Street with a high-level job with a face tattoo.
Believe that. Bet on that. And it's gonna be accepted.
Wrap your mind around, and everybody's gonna be like, "Well, he's amazing at his job. I mean, look at this guy's incredible."
Period. And whether we agree or not, I'm just saying the influence of the narrative of rap music. So as bad as things seem, we had an all-time high with rap, and we got the, you know, look at what Jay's message it has become. You know what I'm saying? Look at Rick Ross.
Yeah, it's definitely not all bad.
Nah.
It's not all bad. I just, you know, I with somebody that is affiliated like yourself and open about it, that doesn't, you know, here in New York City, you know, either A, those individuals ain't coming by this program too frequently because they know I'm gonna challenge them.
Right.
Or B, we just, you know, I don't move in those circles.
100%.
And you are somebody who is not only intelligent, but somebody who's lived a life that can share something very real and it's not a fraud.
Right.
So I thought it was important that we address certain topics in this conversation because I think especially with this album for you, the way it's being received, the critical acclaim, the people that you have on it, from Kendrick to Puff to, you know, I mean, obviously YG and the things that you're doing in business and technology and being an independent artist is very important for people to see this dialogue.
100%.
Because I feel like in the next decade, the things that you're doing, you know, we're going to see the fruits of how it impacted young people.
Right.
Right.
God willing.
I don't think that all the time when things happen, people are able to look that far out.
Right.
Until, you know, like I've seen the impact of, you know, just being in media of so many different things. Hell, Lil Wayne's music stylings that people was like, yo, why is he mumbling?
Right. Has turned into
A whole genre.
A fact. That's
You know
a
what I'm saying?
fact. Yeah.
And there's been negative effects of Lil Wayne's behavior too, from the sipping the lean and, you know, these other things, promethazine talking music. That stuff permeated as well. You know what I'm saying? So, but also his ability to put on other artists and make great music and contribute. You know what I mean? So it comes with positives and negatives. But I
Right.
think if we're being honest as a culture and we want hip hop to continue to have the intended purpose, we got to have honest dialogue. YG gets
day.
credit for it.
Every
yeah,
day.
yeah.
But listen, let me tell you what was said on this show every single
We
day.
say it every day.
I
Fuck
said
Donald
it every
Trump.
day. Fuck Donald
It's
Trump.
the anthem of, if I was allowed to say it with my other jobs, it's the anthem of my life as well.
Right.
He goes harder on hot than he is other places. But I will say though, you know, as much as it is fuck Donald Trump, it is also an awakening. I'm sure you're seeing it of sorts, and an opportunity to have more real conversation about, you know, who leadership could be and what we have power to do.
I agree with that. I'm gonna say one thing too. The silver lining that I'm seeing is like it's an era of honesty now. One
Yeah.
thing we gotta say about Trump, the motherfucker's honest about
Yeah.
how he feels.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's making everybody that follow him be honest.
Oh, we'll find it out exactly
We
who they
know
are.
who's
Know who
who.
you
We
are.
see who is who.
Yeah.
It's gotten it really clear.
And I ain't mad at that part of it, man. Be who you are. You know what I'm saying? The closet.
Yeah, if you're a racist piece of shit, just
say
let
it.
us know.
Yeah, let us know, bro. We go from there, right? And then it's also bringing other side of it to the forefront also, where people that might have been quiet and not had no, you know. And I again, this was YG I did to say fuck Donald Trump. You know what I mean? And I know YG personally, but the perception of YG that might have shocked a lot of people that he took a political stance. I know that don't shock me, but you know, look what the disrespect that the president did brought out of YG. You know what I mean? To the public. He's like, that's important that we say fuck Donald Trump. And I'm like, yeah, I'm with that. Let's do it. That was his concept. You know what I mean? Somebody that the perception, people might just say YG just represent one thing. Again, that's not me saying it, but the perception of YG, if you don't know him from the records maybe that just went on the radio, you might assume that that's outside of his consciousness. But look what the situation brought out of Jizzle. You know what I mean? So I think it is a
I don't think there's a Me Too movement without Donald Trump.
right.
This whole Me Too Time's Up thing, although it's partially related to Trump, it's not really directly. I mean, Harvey Weinstein is not Donald Trump, but
Trump-
I don't think it happens without Donald Trump in place.
Right.
That people have this acute awareness of what's wrong.
Yeah, no, that pendulum swing of women that next day, or what was it, inauguration day, or whatever it
No,
was.
election day. It was election
it was
day
election
Wednesday.
day, yeah.
Oh, that's when it
It
started.
was when women woke up that day and they
Enough
felt
is enough.
they felt under attack. They
Right.
felt under attack, and that changed a lot.
Right.
Nipsey Hussle, ladies and gentlemen, pick up Victory Lap.
Yeah, grab that.